So India's gold demand has risen 8% in the March quarter alone, as per a latest report by the World Gold Council. Now, the report also says India's total gold demand is at 136.6 tons in the March quarter. Gold jewelry demand in India has risen 4% to 95.5 tons as per this report. Gold investment demand in India has risen 19% to 41.1 tons as per this report. And the RBI is purchasing and has purchased 19 tons of gold in the March quarter alone. Now, central banks globally and their net demand has been the strongest to any year on record as a start, as per this report. And of course, reported purchases are broad based, with China, Turkey, and India leading the way. Now, these are, of course, the broad highlights of the report, but prices are surging. We've been reporting on historic highs. So, gold prices surging, and all of this demand amid a record high price globally for gold. So to decode this, we're joined by Mitali Nikor, senior economist. Mitali, thank you for your time. First, of course, prices surging and demand surging like never before.
Absolutely, Sakshi. I think gold is living up to its reputation as a safe haven asset, and there are a lot of sources of this demand that that the report also alludes to, and that we're seeing play out in the markets. There is a rural segment, there's an urban segment, there's also a macroeconomic reason, why we're seeing this happening. So this is sort of the overall picture, but definitely global trends mirroring in India, and India being a strong traditional gold buying market, that's even stronger here.
Right, of course, and of course, the report also, reflecting this trend about how urban India and rural India are seeing similar demand trends. Now, that's very interesting because, as we know, lifestyles are different, income brackets could be completely different. But this report and this latest report seems to highlight that now that bridge is not really as wide as it was earlier, and there are similar trends being looked at. So, your thoughts on those wondering and those sitting at home and saying, okay, how is this happening?
Yeah, no, absolutely, Sakshi. I think we've all had this impression of, a rural India, which is, still developing, which is not doing so well, where there is, high level of poverty. But I think we have to dismiss that notion from our minds now. We are in an era of Viksit Bharat. We are in an era of broad-based development, and this is exactly what we're noticing in terms of decentralized development. That you have a new class of entrepreneurs who are in agriculture, who are in manufacturing, who have their factories and businesses, who choose to remain in rural areas and may not be coming to urban areas. And they are doing incredibly well. So that's where a lot of the gold demand is coming from in the rural space. On the other hand, in the urban space, you have a changing palette of the consumer, right? I mean, the consumer is not necessarily going to be buying the amount of jewelry that previously was being bought, as consumer preferences are changing. So I think especially on the jewelry segment, that's really where the growth is being driven by the rural consumer. But for the urban consumer, really, it's an investor story. And so many small investors that we're speaking to are saying, look, I want to keep at least 5 to 6% of my portfolio for gold, and because this is the way I hedge my risk, and this is the way that I know that this is a long term investment. It's not like something is going to happen to the gold price or I'm going to lose out money on it. So even when the prices are high, small investors are still happy to purchase a small amount and keep it in their portfolio.
Right, very interesting. And of course, the report also saying that look, when we look at the broad based purchases or the broad based trend, then Turkey, China, and India are leading the way. But interestingly, when we look closer and we see the jewelry demand trends, we see India really outperforming even these key players. So, is jewelry really something that's always going to stay as far as demand is concerned in India for gold?
I think for the foreseeable future, yes. I mean, it's such a traditional, asset for us. It's such a traditional asset, especially for the women of this country, to transfer intergenerational wealth between, the older women to the younger women, and especially at the occasion of your marriage. These are rituals and customs that are hard worn, and I don't think they're going anywhere. But I also want to point out the role of gender equality and the growing, financial sort of capacity of women. I mean, especially, urban women are seeking maybe smaller pieces, but some pieces of jewelry which they can purchase with their own salaries and their own incomes. And that growing financial independence, that nari shakti, is really bearing out in the new innovation that jewelry companies are doing for this new class of buyers who may not be that large in quantum or in value, but they're growing maybe faster than other segments.
Right, very, very interesting. Like you mentioned, in terms of jewelry trends now coming to cater to this new section, really. So that, of course, is happening. But interestingly, when we were reading out the broad highlights, Mitali, investment demand also surging 19%. That percentage, obviously, in double digits. So, do you now feel that for some people the mindset is changing and they're saying no, it's really investment as far as gold is concerned?
I wanted to make a contrast to some of the other global markets as well. I mean, we're starting to see these trends in a number of countries when it comes to urban investors in gold. I mean, countries like the US are saying we're coming up with a new class of Costco gold buyers. Like for the first time, poorer or middle class households coming in and saying we want to invest a little bit in gold and see where it goes. And they're pointing this out as a very traditional trend that used to happen, maybe a few decades ago, and it's come back now. I think that's the same thing that we're seeing in India, but it's just that it never went away. The trend of buying gold has always been there, but now the form in which we are buying gold as investors in urban areas is changing. It may not only be jewelry, it may be in the form of sovereign gold bonds, for example. So that trend of buying gold and keeping gold in your portfolio as an investor, be it a big investor or a small investor, is very enduring and it's only going to continue.
All right. Thank you so much for decoding all of this and sharing your insights with our viewers. Thank you.